Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this special episode of Chat with Rohan in conversation with Mr. Abhishek Singh, Additional Secretary at MeitY, on Making in India, AI for the World. India has the potential to add 1.2 trillion to 1.5 trillion US dollars to its GDP between 23-24 to 29-30, with the upside of adding 359 to 438 billion US dollars in 29-30 alone. That represents an increase of 5.9 to 7.2% in its GDP in the 29-30 fiscal year. We have the potential to add 5 million jobs. However, the biggest challenge for any economy that's trying to build AI computing power is, well, the compute capacity required to code, train, and develop population-scale large language models. And the discussion becomes even more complex because in the absence of compute capacity, our options are limited to, say, such as borrowing computing capacity from other nations on the cloud. And, you know, China, according to the top 500 list, has 162 supercomputers. The US has 130. Unfortunately, in India, we're limited to 3 and 4. And this is where the government of India's AI program becomes critically important because they're envisioning building supercomputing capacity within India. The government of India has in the past put in 1,218.14 crore rupees to develop indigenous compute capacity, and now MeitY has sought cabinet approval for a 10,000 crore rupee scheme to build supercomputing capacity within the nation. Mr. Singh is at the helm of affairs, driving the proliferation, adoption, and regulation of artificial intelligence in the country. Mr. Singh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Would you like to tell our audience how we're going to build India into AI supercomputing power?
As you rightly said, the world is moving towards AI, and the way we have seen artificial intelligence technologies dominating conversations, dominating businesses, dominating our lives is here to stay. AI has been around for a long time. The term was first coined way back in 1956. But lately, with the advances that we have seen in the amount of data that we have and the capacity to process that data, it has become a buzzword, especially with the large language models coming in, and more importantly, specifically the chat GPT revolution, if I can say, has made AI, everyone set up and take notice of AI, that it's been there for a long time, but now it's really, really going to change the way we live our lives, the change we work, and the way we kind of interact with each other. So, and India has a strong strength, like when it comes to, like there are three major components that are required for AI. That's, of course, compute, you rightly said. Second is data, and third is talent. So when it comes to like AI-based talent, when it comes to people who are skilled in writing AI algorithm, writing AI code, we are amongst the world's best. In fact, the Stanford AI Index 2023 ranks India as a top nation when it comes to AI skill base. There's several reports which say that the amount of engineers that we have who have the capability of writing code is much more than any other country that has. And the strength that we have across being the digital garage, the garage for the IT services to the entire world, stands us well in when it comes to AI also. The other two components are where we need to work. Data, of course, we are very rich in data. One, because we are a very large country. Second, because we have implemented large-scale digital transformation projects as part of our DPI story. But the data that is generated, a lot more needs to be done. The data governance framework, the trying to ensure that the data that we have is usable, and the departments are able to actually identify in what forms this data can be shared. How do we build in privacy preservation tools? How do we build in data anonymization tools? The protocols for sharing data, not only within government departments, but also sharing what kind of data can be shared with researchers, with academicians to build solutions. So that needs fixing, for which the data governance policy is in the works. The draft has been consulted, and hopefully it will be notified very soon. That will ensure the availability of data for algorithm writers to play with. The third component that we come with compute, and when it comes to AI compute, today the entire compute is concentrated in few countries and a few companies. And there's one company who has like dominated the whole market, which is like kind of building the chips which are used for building supercomputers for AI. We all know NVIDIA, and there are other companies which are trying to catch up with them. So we need, and the shortage of AI chips is such that there's almost a 2-year supply chain bottleneck for any other country or any other company to get hold of that kind of compute. So what we need to do in India is not only commit funds for building that kind of supercompute so that our researchers, our academicians can build large language models. Today we are all relying on the OpenAI's LLM or Llama of Meta or Falcon or other LLMs which are available from other countries. But if we have to build up a large language model for India, which is customized for Indian data, which is trained on Indian data sets, which has a rich source of data from Indian languages, we will need to invest into that compute infrastructure. Rightly said that we have a limited compute right now. CDAC has built Airavat, which is the AI supercomputer that we have, Airavat Paramsiddhi. It's ranked 75th in the world with regard to its compute capacity, but it only has 646 GPUs. And when you compare it with the world's best, the Frontier AI supercomputer of the United States, that's got almost 37,000 GPUs. So we are an order of magnitude behind US and China when it comes to building AI supercomputers. So we will need to put the money where it's required to be put. We'll need to incentivize Indian startups, Indian researchers to train Indian data sets on these supercomputers and make Indian large language models. We heard about a few Indian companies launching Indian LLMs, but they are also, most of them are relying on the foundation models built by Meta and by OpenAI. So if we are able to provide compute, if we are able to provide incentives for Indian researchers, we'll be able to do that. And that's something that we need to do earlier than ever.
Mr. Singh, you know, there's such a broad spectrum of discussion, and you very rightly said there's one company, ladies and gentlemen, that enjoys an 88% market share, and that company is NVIDIA. And like Mr. Singh said, there's a 12 to 18-month lag in receiving the product from this very company. Mr. Singh, our compute capacity will witness an interim period where there will be a lag till we set up the said compute capacity. What are our options as a nation in the interim? Would we borrow compute capacity through the cloud? What complexities does the US Cloud Act bring to the table, the data localization requirements?
While it's true that there is a supply chain lag, but the discussion that we have had with the NVIDIA and other companies who are there, they have committed. In fact, the NVIDIA CEO, global CEO, Mr. Jensen, was here in India a few months back, and he made this commitment that whenever India or Indian companies place an order, they will prioritize provision of the AI chips by kind of giving a precedence, even though there is a lag for India, because they know that the kind of the NVIDIA's one of the maximum number of design engineers are based in India. There are almost 3,000 design engineers who are here, who are working for NVIDIA. So they know that the kind of innovation that comes from India, the kind of talent that we have, if they provide here, it will ultimately help all the entire world. So that commitment is there, that whenever we get our approvals, it will not be difficult for us to secure the supply of those chips. And secondly, 3 Indian companies, the Yota, the Jio, and Tatas, they have also entered into kind of agreements, contracts with NVIDIA for building AI supercompute in the private sector. And from what I hear, each one of them are trying to put up almost 50,000 GPUs. So that would ensure that our compute shortage is met not only from the government, but also from the investment that's coming from the private sector. Of that, one of them, Yota, I am told that they will be ready to roll. They already have placed the orders, they have got the chips, and the infrastructure will be ready to be rolled out by as early as next month. So that way, there is sufficient investments coming from the private sector. Government is making the commitment, and we are providing all kinds of policy support that's required to make the availability of compute possible within India.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's breaking news from Mr. Abhishek Singh that NVIDIA will be giving India as a nation preferential access to orders placed with the company for semiconductors. And I think India is truly becoming a Vishwamitra in that sense, Mr. Singh. I must ask you, you spoke about indigenous information. Immediately preceding this conversation, there was a conversation with Mr. Ajay Chaudhary, who was co-founder of HCL and really helped set up a lot of the IT hardware manufacturing systems in India. Where are we in terms of becoming a product nation versus a services nation?
See, we have moved a lot. In fact, in the last few years, if you look at the kind of innovation that has happened in the product space, and you rightly mentioned, Mr. Ajay Chaudhary has been one of the pioneers for building products, building electronics, manufacturing in India, and the government has come up with such kind of schemes which is promoting manufacturing in India. So like the PLI scheme has already helped India become the second largest mobile manufacturer in the world. All the top companies are looking at India to set up their manufacturing base. So whether it is Apple or whether it's Samsung or whether it's Google, all of them are manufacturing their mobile phones in India. We already know that. The PLI schemes for laptops, notebooks, wearables, that's also been rolled out, and that's there also we are seeing a lot of manufacturing is happening in India. India has become a net exporter when it comes to electronics manufacturing. Over and above, there are companies in India which are innovating, which are building products. Like if you look at a company like Zoho, they have come out with several products with which they are servicing the whole world. So the shift from just providing manpower to the developed world and trying to build up an IT business around that, which was the initial phase in the 1990s. Most of our IT companies excelled in that. So from that to building products which can serve the world. And another key thing that has impacted from moving from services to product is the DPI story. Because the whole world is looking at products like UPI, products like DigiLocker, products like Aadhaar, identity systems as something that can be replicated elsewhere. In the G20, we saw many countries take notice of that. So not only in the public sector, but the private sector also, several companies, several startups are innovating and building products that can be offered to the world. And with AI coming in, with AI-based solutions, with AI-based healthcare solutions, with AI-based educational solutions, with AI-based skilling solutions for mobility, for traffic management, for logistics management, I see a great potential in the days to come for Indian product companies to dominate the entire technology space across the world.
Mr. Singh, speaking of indigenous information, how do we as a nation ensure that there is democratized access to AI data by startups, by, for say instance, compute capacity by small businesses because they find it a challenge, by AI researchers within the ecosystem, to truly build models that are made in India for the rest of the world?
As I mentioned in the beginning, that to build AI models, to build AI-based solutions, you need access to quality data and you need access to high-powered compute. So once we are able to build compute infrastructure, like Airavat is servicing the researchers and startups at the present moment, but when the capacity of systems like Airavat goes up, it will become available to the entire ecosystem, and people, the researchers, academicians, students, startups across the country will be able to use that infrastructure to build that solution, to build solutions, to train their models, and to ensure that they are able to offer better services. And the second will be data governance, the data sharing piece. For example, if somebody is trying to build up a solution to detect, say, tuberculosis by training a model which reads X-ray images and tries to detect whether a person has tuberculosis or not, that person will need access to data sets from a rich data set from across the country wherein X-ray images, anonymized X-ray images have been tagged into whether it's a tuberculosis case or not. So when that kind of data set is made available, when other public data sets across sectors are made available, people will be able to use the data sets and the compute available to train models into that. But if for them to go to product level companies, will need to kind of provide incentives to startups at every stage, provide them mentoring support, provide them access to markets, provide them use cases. Like for example, government does hackathons and all. So when we kind of throw up challenges which can be solved by AI, some such researchers and startups will be able to make those solutions to meet the challenges that we have.
Mr. Singh, Dr. Shamika Ravi was with us this morning and she said something very interesting. She said, data is the new oil, but ab crude oil ka kya hi kariyega? And this is where I'd like to speak about the National Data Governance Framework Policy, which you are also heralding. And it's a novel initiative because you're envisioning the creation of an India data sets platform wherein anonymized, non-personal data from central government entities will be shared with the larger AI ecosystem, such as startups, such as researchers and universities and the likes. I believe you're also considering issuing a notice to private players like Facebook, Microsoft and Google to share anonymized, non-personal data. Do you think they'll be compliant?
See, like as you rightly said, and for what Shamika mentioned, data is the new oil. But just like oil, crude oil requires processing and refining, similarly, data also requires to be processed and refined. And for doing that, we would need to build compute capacity for processing it. And number two, for refining it, we'll need to clean up the data, make it properly indexed, make it anonymized with privacy preservation tools, and make it available on open data portals or licensing systems across the whole ecosystem. So when we are doing that, and the national data governance policy is coming up, which will envisage setting up a national data management office, as well as data management units across departments, building capacities within the government. So all that is being done in order to ensure that we are ready to be able to use the data and make the data that we have usable for the entire ecosystem. Along with that, the data protection bill has also been passed. The act has been, the act is now a law. So that would also require building capacities, setting up systems to ensure that everybody becomes compliant to the laws and regulations that are there. And once a sovereign country makes a law, and once we make our regulations, once we notify the law, the rules and all, so whether it is Google or whether it's Meta or whether it's Facebook or whether it's DIC or NEGD, all of us, we all need to comply to that law. There is no question that there will be preferential treatment for any entity when a law is notified. And if the law requires treating the data of Indian citizens, doing, having data localization, or the guidelines or regulations which are there, everybody needs to comply. So there is no question of how you will make it compliant. Just like everybody complies with every other law, so every entity will need to comply with Indian laws in India.
Well, that's heartening to hear, Mr. Singh. If we look at the various use cases of AI, and they range from education to healthcare to public finance, would you envision separate sectoral regulations and guidelines for each use case, or are there a set of common principles and frameworks that we can arrive at to regulate trustworthy best practices within AI?
See, like you don't need to think of separately for doing this. What is AI? AI is also a piece of software which is much more efficient than the kind of software that we have had for so long. So there is no need for a separate regulation. The guidelines would require safe, secure and trustworthy use of artificial intelligence. And when we say safe, secure, trustworthy, what does it mean? What does it mean when somebody is, what does it mean to a user who might be a user of a AI-based system? What does it mean to a developer who is kind of developing AI-based solution? And what does it mean to the government or the regulator who's trying to regulate it? So we'll have to look at it from all the three lenses. And when we do that, the key framework that defines and meets the needs for each of these three entities is user harm. So like any solution which causes user harm or which results in some of any rights of anyone being deprived, those things will be restricted, those things will be opposed. A very common use case, which is something which we all are concerned about, in fact all democracies are concerned about, not only India but the whole world over, is fake news and misinformation. Because artificial intelligence can be a big powerful tool for disseminating fake news and for creating images and videos which might not be true. So it does require, the regulatory framework would require kind of marking it, watermarking it, or in any other form, so that it is AI generated. So for such things where it can cause a harm to an individual or cause an harm to democracies or to societies in general, those things will be regulated. And rest of the things which are resulting in benefits, therein people will need to be informed that whatever service they are taking is AI generated, AI enabled. When you are talking to a bot, you should know that you are talking to a bot and not to a human at the other end. So once we develop a framework or regulations in that kind of time, it becomes more acceptable. It meets the needs of all the three stakeholders. Like we are not killing innovation, we are allowing the developers to build solutions that can solve problems, at the same time protecting the user from any kind of harm that may arise.
Well, Mr. Singh, it's great to hear that in this particular circumstance, regulation is not playing catch-up. And in the case of AI, India is truly preempting and envisioning what could potentially go wrong and regulating for it preemptively. Mr. Singh, one of our biggest strengths as a nation is our domestic talent pool. You've written extensively on skilling, training, and employability of the nation's youth. How do we ensure that India's workforce in the future is AI ready?
See, one of the key criticisms of AI has been that it will take away jobs. And people have been saying that some jobs will become redundant. And we have already seen how CRM, the people with whom we used to talk for customer grievance redressal have been replaced by bots. We have already seen how ChatGPT is replacing the jobs of content writers, creative designers and all. So there will be, and there are people also who say that ChatGPT has started writing code, Python code, better than what low-value coders do. So while these are true, And there are possibilities of some jobs becoming extinct. But the real problem, the real issue that will kill jobs and that will make people lose jobs is not have AI skills. Think times are changing and AI is creating more jobs in sectors in which people can excel, move up the value chain. So it would require reskilling and upskilling of our entire tech workforce. We have almost 50 million people working in the IT and IT-enabled sector. So it will require skilling and reskilling at all levels, and government is conscious of that. The Future Prime Skills program was launched, I think, 4 years back, and that primarily focused on this. How do we give an opportunity for professionals who are already employed, get to know about AI, about blockchain, about IoT, about AR, VR, the new technologies that are coming in, how they can get themselves trained, how they can get themselves certified, they can acquire accreditation skills. So that's a very key part of our entire strategy of reskilling and upskilling our existing workforce. Second most important thing is that how do we ensure that our students who are in school, they come up with AI skills right from the beginning. So for that, the Central Board of School Education and other boards also have worked with industry in incorporating the AI as a curriculum in our school system. Today, as a class 10th student, 9th and 10th student for their board examination, they can take artificial intelligence as a subject, and they can take it for learning it right from the school level. So that ensures that our supply chain right from the childhood is ensured for training people in AI-based skills. Third, we have also been doing a program called Yuva AI in training school students in youth with basic AI lessons. And in fact, last year when we launched it, we got very encouraging response. More than 60,000 kids, school kids, registered for it in no time. They developed AI-based solutions. And some of them, like they went through training, they went through mentoring, they went through taking part in boot camps, and the top 10 solutions, top 10, and they were asked to think of problem statement, think of building prototypes and all. And 10 of them, they built their solutions in the GPA Summit. We are also the chair of the Global Partnership on AI this year. And the GPA Summit that we held in December, these 10 students, they showcased their solutions to none other than the Honorable Prime Minister. And they were amazing solutions. There was this girl from a government school, class 9th in Lakhimpur Kheri in Uttar Pradesh, who had built up a solution which was doing what? She had put the sensors in the soil of the agricultural field of her father, which was measuring the moisture content of the soil health quality, and mapping it with the weather data which was coming from IMD, and also the crop that the father was sowing and mapping it with the prices from the eNAM portal. And then the model was suggesting to the father about which crop he should grow for getting maximum yield. So a class 9th government school girl student from UP thinking of these solutions. Then there was a young boy from Haryana who had built up a sensor-based walking stick. And we asked them, and what the stick would do is that if the stick would fall, it will send an alert on SMS to the person to whom it is linked, to send the alert that the stick has fallen. And we asked them, what made you think so? He said that his grandfather had Alzheimer's, and to help him, he thought of building this solution. So what I mean to say that these programs are ensuring that our younger generation, our engineers of tomorrow, our AI algorithm writers of the next generation are being trained well, giving complete exposure in building such solutions and grooming them with the school education, college education, university education. All IITs, all triple ITs have AI as a curriculum. The people can do engineering and artificial intelligence. And over and above, the Vishwasariya PhD scheme is giving enhanced scholarships for students who are taking research work in the field of emerging technology, especially artificial intelligence, and providing the support. So all these programs collectively, plus industry is also driving a lot of these such programs for skilling, upskilling, will ensure that we retain our competitive advantage when it comes to competing with the whole world in the field of AI.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the man himself. Our next generation of digital natives are making AI in India for the world. Mr. Singh, if I'm to open up the conversation a bit, you said something which was very interesting. You said that we must move up the domestic value chain in terms of our workforce. Now, if we look at from Lakhimpur Kheri, developing agricultural AI models, to our participation in the GPA AI, how does the global south at one level envision its place in the world pecking order of AI, and how can India step up to take its rightful place in the global value chain?
See, like while in DPIs we have a very significant advantage when it comes to the whole world. No other country has built the kind of DPIs that we have built. But when it comes to AI, the Western world has a distinct advantage. So whether it is the United States or whether it's the OECD countries, they have a distinct advantage. The global south is more of a user of AI products and less of a producer of AI products. We in India have the potential of leading the global south in this narrative. And we are the chair of the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence, which is a group of 29 countries, mostly the countries of OECD and the West. Very few countries, only 4 to 5 countries are there, a part of the global south. And there also, all these countries and the other 145 countries of the global south are looking at India's leadership in trying to help them in their AI journey, in trying to ensure equitable access to AI compute, equitable access to AI data sets, equitable AI access to AI algorithms. So we also propose, as part of the GPA summit in December, we propose 2 new themes to add to the existing themes of global health, climate change and resilient society. India added 2 new themes, one in the field of sustainable agriculture and the second for collaborative AI for global partnership. And the collaborative AI for global partnership has the potential of making GPA and the entire global ecosystem to work together to develop something like CERN for AI. Just like the CERN brings together researchers across the world to do research in particle physics, similarly for artificial intelligence, countries who do not have access to AI compute will need some facility which can be set up by collaborating with all the partners, wherein compute can be made accessible to researchers in, say, Rwanda or Kenya or anywhere, along with data sets, along with mentoring, along with training, along with skilling support, to ensure that the next big innovators, they may come from anywhere in the world, but if we provide this opportunity through global partnerships, through collaborative work, that would become a possible. And India has a unique opportunity to lead this initiative for giving this, lead this initiative for the entire global south.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh, for joining us this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Abhishek Singh. A big round of applause, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening Mr. Abhishek Singh, Additional Secretary MeitY, in conversation with the public policy professional Mr. Rohan Kochhar.